When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Speaking of great guests, Eric Duhaime has joined us in studio. He is leader of the Quebec Conservative Party. And Eric, when I say great guest, it doesn't mean I agree with everything you say, but you know your media. You know how to make good radio, and I
used to have your job. That's why.
So you know the game. Let's get down to the matter at hand here.
Yes.
Why? And thanks for joining us in studio. I want to talk about one of the big controversies in Quebec City, and of course that's the Northvolt deal.
Yeah.
We simply don't have a true grasp on what the number is, how much money has been thrown down the toilet in this deal, and perhaps there could be miracles where none of the money gets thrown down the toilet. But you're making a call here. Enough of the investment in battery projects and to unleash natural gas, which sometimes in this province has been taboo simply because what is the social acceptability of natural gas projects, that kind of thing. Give us your take. Give us our listeners your take.
Well, first off, on Northvolt, I think it's important to underline that it's at least $700 million that have been put in by Quebec taxpayers.
Which let's say Northvolt goes under tomorrow because they're doing some trouble in Sweden. Is the 710 gone?
Well, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, no one has the answer except those who don't talk right now. And there's no transparency. That's another problem. How come we're putting so much money into a project that is very risky and the taxpayers don't even know what's happening? We don't know at what cost they're selling our electricity to those people. We don't know the conditions if they go under. Are we going to keep the land that they bought on the south shore of Montreal? We have no clue. So there's a lot of uncertainties. But I've been against that project from day one, not because I'm against electricity, not because I'm against batteries or against private businesses. It's the opposite. But I don't believe it's the role of the state to pick and choose winners and losers. It's very basic. I want to make sure Quebec has it's good for businesses, for all businesses, not just a few selected by a minister. And that's what we need to do. Our industrial policy as conservatives is to make sure that we're with all businesses, to make sure they create as much job as possible, not to pick and choose. And the government doesn't know better than the market and the consumers what's best.
So, listen, yesterday on this program, I highlighted this yesterday on the picking of winners and losers. I'll tell you this. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show. It was a couple of years ago. I was talking to someone who's in government, and we were talking about electric vehicles in the future and all this kind of stuff. And I brought up Tesla, who has just become the dominant market force. And he said, no. You know who's going to win? You know who's going to win this?
The Chinese?
Well, he said the Swedish manufacturers.
The Swedish.
He was talking about Volvo. Now, Volvo has large Chinese ownership, by the way. So maybe that was tying into that. And I walked away from the discussion. I said, what are they planning on doing? And I look at what happened in the States, right? In the U.S., they passed this Inflation Reduction Act and included a lot of stuff for making batteries. And since they passed that, it's $35 a kilowatt hour is the subsidy. And since then, CATL, Chinese, Tesla, American, LG Chem, South Korean, Panasonic, Japanese, they've all been expanding. They haven't slowed down. They've made some pivots at times, but they've all been doubling down on battery plants. Here, what do? We go to the loser and we give them a boatload of money. That's the pick. We're on the same page,
exactly.
Obviously.
And even it's a company that even the Swedish government doesn't want to subsidize them. Yeah. What are we doing? It's very.
But this, you know what? This is interesting because I don't think a lot of people know that in the Scandinavian countries, we talk about socialism in Scandinavian countries. They're so free market in these Scandinavian countries. That's why they don't do it.
They're regulated a lot. Yeah. But the government doesn't intervene as much.
Yes.
And that's a huge difference. So what we want to do is a little bit like that, because what we're saying is that, energy is important. Hydro-Quebec currently, there's been a commission over the last 2 weeks in Quebec City for the future of the energy sector in Quebec. Mm-hmm. Hydro-Quebec is asking for $155 billion more for new things within the next 10 years. It's a huge amount of money. And that's why we had a debate about should we increase the cost of electricity in Quebec. And that's why Fitzgibbon said we're going to double the cost of energy in Quebec. We don't believe that's the solution. We do believe that there's 13% of our energy consumption in Quebec that is natural gas.
Yeah.
We have the biggest unexplored
Reserve.
unexploited
Yeah.
reserve in the world of natural gas. We consume $2 billion a year. We could export like crazy. We could make a few $billion a year on that. There's $250 billion underneath our feet in commercial value right now. And we.
What do you say to someone who says, "Okay, that's great, but let's say you were in power. We just go from giving money to EV battery people, and now we just open the taps and give government money to natural gas."
We wouldn't give a penny. The idea is to have it privately done. But currently, the reason why it's not done, because there used to be rights for companies who had rights on territories in Quebec. The government of Quebec was elected. François Legault was campaigning 6 years ago, saying that we would become the Norway of America, and that we would exploit our natural gas like crazy.
Yes.
He got elected. He passed a bill to forbid any kind of exploitation. Another flip-flop that he did. And that's very costly now. And we're not saying it shouldn't be the government's role, but the companies that have the rights to explore and exploit right now, they're suing the government for $40 billion. The government offered $100 million. Obviously, they're not agreeing, but it's going to go in front of the courts. But it could cost a few $billion, even $40 billion, because we said no, on top of the fact that we're not making a penny on the resource we have already.
Yeah.
It's just insane when you think about it.
Well, it does go to the question, and this has been a topic of late, if the CAQ government has left their roots and what they were elected to do. We're with Eric Duhaime, who's leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec. He's in studio. So I want to play you some audio here, right?
Go ahead.
And it's from Yuri Chassin. He was in this studio, in that chair, a couple of weeks ago. He resigned from the CAQ. And when he resigned from the CAQ to sit as an independent, he was basically saying the CAQ has lost their way. They're not doing the things that they were elected to do. I asked him on this show, right, about a lot of the stuff he was saying. Seems like he would be a perfect fit in your party. Have a listen. We've had Eric Duhaime on this program many times, conservative, obviously leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec. He seems to think, in some of the things you just said, it resonated like, oh, I've heard that.
Oh, we think alike in so much things.
Couldn't you bring more to the National Assembly as a member of his party?
You know what? Even if it was so, this is not what the electorate of Saint-Jérôme voted for. And so the first thing I want to say is that my electorate voted Yuri Chassin, Coalition Avenir Québec, and probably more for the second part, right? Because Yuri Chassin, okay, well, it's a name. But then again, if I have to say I'm not comfortable anymore with my party, I'll become independent, but I'm not going to go across the border, to say, well, let's take another party when it's a one man's decision and not my writing's decision. So this is the respect I have for my
Monsieur Chassin. So let me just ask, how many gift baskets are you sending this guy every week? I mean, because at this, like this is the problem for your party. You're on the outside looking in. So how do you get in? This is a guy that pretty much believes everything you're saying.
I've known Yuri for 20 years. He's a good friend. We think the same. He tried to fight within the CAQ. I did it outside of the CAQ, but we were following the same battle for the same values. I respect his decision of saying, look, I've been elected as a CAQ. I'm not going to go in another party. That being said, you have to know that the day he resigned, he called only one leader, and it was not François Legault, it was me. He called me at 6 a.m. that morning to tell me he was doing his press conference in the morning. He told me that there would be questions about how come he's not coming with me because we've been talking together for ages. And he told me why he wasn't doing it, but he said that we would collaborate in the future. Since then, we spoke, we met, and we're going to meet again and see how we could make sure, because at the end of the day, it's not the party that matters. It's the ideas. How could we make sure that our common agenda moves forward?
If you started a petition in Saint-Jérôme, right, his riding, it's Saint-Jérôme, right?
It's Saint-Jérôme.
If you started a petition in his riding and you got the equal number of people to sign it that voted for him in the last election, wouldn't that prove to him that he had the support to jump?
That's the kind of thing that I need to discuss with him. Like, what exactly does it need? Is it a poll? Is it a petition? Is it just talking about the next election? You could say that he's going to run for us in the next election by staying independent. We can do things together. So we have to explore all what's possible, and there's no rush. I mean, the election is only in over 2 years.
Okay.
But for sure, we're going to collaborate one way or the other.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things, when we were talking before the interview started, you mentioned to me good news for your party. If you look at the non-Francophone vote, you say you're at 22%
in
now?
The last Palace poll that was published 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's huge for us. Like 22 is huge. But it's always been the case, huh? It's very weird when people who don't know Quebec politics and look at the figures, they don't understand. Our stronghold is Quebec City, so the great region of Quebec City. Our second stronghold is the non-Francophone vote. And it's not because there's a lot of non-Francophones in Quebec City, I just want to tell you.
Yeah.
But there's two pockets where we're particularly strong, and people don't see the common ground between those two. I see it. I think that it's people who have small c conservative values, and that's we need to be more known, especially among non-Francophones. It's a challenge because there's a lot of communities, there's a lot of diversity, there's a lot of people who pick up their information from different places, and it's tough to get into those small pockets, much more than the Francophone vote that is more homogeneous, if I could say.
Listen, Eric, you know the business. We're up against the clock. We have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much, Elias.
Eric Duhaime is leader of the Quebec Conservative Party.